Jimmy Vernon's catching him too.
I would be interested to see the wheel alignment results post-race of this one, because clearly there'd be some steering damage to potentially both those cars. Oh. This is not a replay. This is take two.
Take two, okay. The last time was pretty entertaining. Let's line them up again. Lloyd and Randall still your leaders, and the battle for third is still well and truly alive. You're riding on board with Lewis Leeds, 15 years of age, and he's got a very hungry Will Brown. He'll try a different tactic up the inside at turn one this time.
Oh no, side by side. Look, Leeds says, I'm going to hang in here, and then we're going to have a go again at turn two. So let's hope these guys can get round the corner. He's gone down the outside, very deep, and Will Brown gets through, finally. Great battle, great battle.
Battle of the season so far. Will Brown sneaks through to third, deservingly so, but Lewis is not out of this yet. No, turn four's not the spot to do it. And he set him up again. Evenly matched, but I believe Will might be a bit quicker through this part of the track, which is where he'll be thinking, I need to get away from him. I need to make sure that he doesn't get a toe down that front straight. Back end of Will's car stepped out a little bit, but he carried some good mid-corner speed. He may have done enough to hang on to third.
Look at Vernon now. He's just been chipping away. He got a bit of a gap from Zane Goddard, and he's got some really good speed on halfway through this race. Still 8 laps to go, and Vernon now closes in. He wants to have a battle for third.
As this is brewing, I want to have another look at what happened on that first corner between our two leaders. Oh, Will Brown is slipping up then for a bit. We had these guys going down towards turn two, and there was a bit of contact made here.
So that was the result of Gretsch just touching the back of Zane Goddard. Unfortunately for Tom, he's back to 9th. Goddard is currently holding down 6th. Behind this guy, Jimmy Vernon, Sydney Sider, had a huge crash last year where he damaged his back, and he's bounced back this year into F4 for the full season, committed very early, and doing a solid job this weekend, making up some good ground.
I'm amazed that these two are soldiering on in the fashion that they are. I know that the other guys are creeping up on them, but it was a pretty big hit. There was also the contact between the two leaders, albeit tiny on that first lap. We talked about Lloyd and Randall. Now, the question will be here, did Lloyd squeeze Randall down? There was definitely a small touch. Look at this.
Right there. And that's a wing end plate, which was a reasonable touch. You could see the back of the Jordan Lloyd car move, and I think Thomas was in his right certainly to stay there up the inside, but at some point you have to maybe lift if you're being squeezed. But look, again, it was a minor contact, but very lucky that Lloyd didn't get a left rear puncher out of that one.
Well, the question will be, do race control pull the trigger on that one and say that there was a driver at fault for that one, or will they let it go through to the keeper? We'll wait and see. Here is that battle. They have just been turning almost identical lap times the whole way through. This time, we'll mark it with a 132.1 and a 132.1. It's awesome to see.
6 100s, isn't it?
Look at that. That tells the story graphically, that down the bottom, toing and froing, but just tiny increments.
And only 9 100s between their fastest laps. So there's no doubt these two drivers are the stars of the field this year. And in fairness to the rest of the drivers that have stepped out of karting, they have the most experience. Still teenagers, though, remember, so still got a big future whichever way they head. So does this guy, Will Brown, just checking the right mirror to see how far Leeds is back. Jimmy Vernon's just slipped back about half a second on that lap.
So there might be more to come after this race, I think. Keep an eye out for Formula 4 on Twitter if you want to know the end result between Lloyd and Randall down there at turn one. Because the question will be if Randall had to lift because of Lloyd squeezing him over. Because if he didn't lift, it would have been Senna and Prost at Suzuka all over again down there.
Had a gut feeling it was going to end that way, wasn't it? You could see Lloyd made the decision early. Right, I'm going to make hay here. I'm going to move across. So
we'll see what they
credit
say.
that they both got through, just.
Yeah. And since then, they've been turning identical lap times. It's been fascinating to watch, and this battle between those two is just going to rage on. Oh, big moment for Brown. He's gone. And Leeds spins through. Catcher, can he get it started?
Did he have a mechanical, and he just overcooked that?
I think maybe he got on the power too early.
Yeah.
And just lost the rear end, which is difficult to do in these cars because usually they're pretty responsive and they're pretty happy to feed the power on early. Let's watch
there
this
it
one
is up there.
Vernon's. Oh, he got a bit wide too.
He did, didn't he? He got on the curb.
Man, here it is.
Let's have a look. So gets through there quite okay, and then gets out on the curb.
The back end was going before he even got there as well.
I think he carried a lot of mid-corner speed through that left-hander, so the rear's already started to get unloaded.
Oh.
And he's just dropped the right rear off that edge of that concrete curbing on the exit there, and it's just spun the car around very quick. And that does happen in a aero-aided car. You disturb the air of the floor, you drop off the curb like that, and it loses downforce, and it's spun around quite quickly. So real shame for Will Brown. He's been holding P3 all race, 5 laps to go, and he's now dropped to 8th.
And what it does mean is that car 3, Zane Goddard for BRM, has been promoted to 6th, which essentially is pole position for race 2. So it's worked out beautifully for Zane Goddard. He was looking like starting in 7th. Now he'll start from pole for race 2. If it stays the same, but there's still a few laps left in this one to sort it all out.
I get a gut feeling, Chad, this battle's not over and out, rather, at the front. Because Thomas Randall's just hanging on. He needs another half a car. They're so close, but another half a car would give him some toe, at least down this front straight. But if anything, he loses out a little bit down the main straight here. And that was 1/100th difference between their lap times.
Awesome.
32.49 and a 32.48 for Tom Randall.
Jordan Lloyd is just unflappable. All this pressure behind him. He knows that if he misses one braking marker, if he just runs it a tiny bit wide. We saw what happened to Will Brown. All that pressure of car 49 in the mirrors, knowing the championship ramifications if he makes a mistake. And yet, they just turn identical times. There it is. The fastest laps so far in this race, not a whole lot in it. And at the moment, they're just 100 separated in terms of lap times, but nearly half a second on the actual racetrack itself, which means it's really difficult for Randall to just close it, even dropping the right rear off at the exact same part of the racetrack.
Just centimetre perfect, isn't it? And that's how you drive these cars, with real precision. You don't manhandle them. They require nice accuracy. Certainly, it's interesting. Thomas is stronger in the final sector over Jordan Lloyd, whereas Jordan seems to be a bit stronger in that first sector. So, 3 laps to run.
Onto the front straight they go. Kylie King's down in the pits with the team boss from BRM.
Yes, Mark Rundle, these closing stages of this race, your boy's a great driver, but gee, he's got someone hot on his tail, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. It's going to be a couple of really tense last couple of laps, but we're pretty confident that Jordan's doing a great job and he'll bring it home.
Yeah, he's been the form driver all year. Why so, do you think?
Look, he's a great young driver, and he's been through all the learning years, and now he's just got to that point and he's putting it all together.
Let you enjoy these last few laps with crossed fingers.
What a great team BRM are, and so much history in the sport. They've run F2, F3 and F4 in this country.
Yeah, they have, and obviously running Carrera Cup this weekend, so they have Devarshan, Paddy Archie and Simon Hodge in Carrera Cup. So Mark Rundle, very professional team. His father Bronte started it and still does a bit of Formula V racing himself. In fact, he makes his old man drive the truck every now and then. So some really strong open-wheeler pedigree race teams coming out of South Australia. Vernon, that gap has stayed the same. Very much maintained that gap to Lewis Leeds. A little bit stronger down there.
Now, there's a bit of dust around there, and that must have come from the leaders. Because there's only 2 guys up the road from these boys. And Lloyd has just opened up that gap to be 6/10 now, although not a lot. So I think they just got it a little bit wide to flick that dust up.
Oh, and look at this. Nick Rowe is really strong in the back half of this race. So he's moved up. He was down in 8th early on. He's now up to 5th and closing on the back of Jimmy Vernon.
Oops, and Frankie Maiolo's lost it.
Starting that car. I can hear it running, just trying to grab a gear. And he might be actually stuck there. Might have actually beached it just on a bit of a drop off of the curb. Let's have a look what happened here. Oh, we only got the very end of it, unfortunately. And just roll back, and that's where it might stay. We'll keep an eye on that with 2 laps to go. Hopefully they can cover that with yellows and let these guys keep racing.
Well, this will actually be the final lap now. And it would appear that Randall has just about lost any hope of getting one back here on Jordan Lloyd. He looks set for his 5th race win of the season. And he'll try and extend that lead that a little bit further. Oh, and a mistake. Randall's pushing to try and close that gap. That could just about have been the final moment of the race for him.
Yeah, would have got a bad sportsmanship flag or a warning there for running all four wheels off the road. But this one's still on. The battle for 3rd between Lewis Leeds, Jimmy Vernon, and Nick Rose right in behind this guy, Jimmy Vernon. See what happens down here. He's got quite a nice run off turn 8.
Just closes. That's the corner where Crivier and Doohan got together in MotoGP, or the 500s.
The question is, what's Nick Rowe doing behind here? He must be all over the back. But Jordan Lloyd, gee, he's good. He's going to take it out again.
Won the race at turn 1. There'll be a little chat about how turn 1 was handled after the race, but he is first to the checkered flag. 5th race win of the season. Vernon looking in his left mirror because he knows that Rowe is close, but not close enough. Rowe will do enough to grab a front row start for race 2. Good drive from him. And also Lewis Leeds, impressive 3rd place for the 15-year-old. And he's had a couple of those before now, so he's getting used to finishing inside the top 3. Jordan Lloyd, impressive once again. 25 championship points in the bag. And that will help to close up that gap in the championship, which was starting to evaporate after the qualifying points, but he extends it once again. Lloyd, Randall leads the top 3. Vernon with a great drive. He was a long way back. Started 9th, past 5 cars. Zane Goddard gets the invert. He will start on pole for race 6, and unfortunately, Maiolo couldn't get that car restarted.